So definitely lead with the things that you're happiest with, that you're passionate about, because that will translate when you're at the table talking to other people about your art.
Totally
Start
agree.
with your faves. Why not? Celebrate your favorite artworks is kind of the way I look at it.
Right.
Show people like, this is the party that's going on in my mind. You're invited. Like, come over and check it out.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's kind of like the storytelling.
Yeah.
Right.
Story.
Welcome to another episode of Art of the Bass Sessions. Today we have two special guests. We have Genevieve and Lily. How's it going?
Hi.
It's going awesome. Stoked to be here.
Same here. And I'm with Genevieve.
Yes. I know, we have to make sure, like, if you're hearing the audio portion, Genevieve is the first person speaking.
Yeah.
And then Lily is the second person speaking.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
So now the audio listeners will know.
Perfect. I'm so glad you pointed that out.
Yeah. I don't think about it until I was like, oh yeah, we have two guests. So like that way people know like who's who.
And we're just a couple of podcast newbies. So like, please, all the direction we can get.
Oh no, like I said, we're all still learning as we go. Like every mistake we learn from that. So yeah, there you go. Thank you so much for joining us. I guess we can get started at the beginning somewhat. We usually ask on the podcast, like, how you got started either in the arts or like going back into like your creative start, so to speak. So it could be anything from like school, or if you were just doing arts on your part-time or spare time or anything like that. So wherever you want to start in your art journey, origin story, so to speak.
Do you want me to go? Well, I was thinking about this the other day, and I've actually mentioned this to Lily before.
Yeah.
All three of us, what we're doing now, got started during COVID, which I love. I think that's so cool that all three of us kind of went through a similar experience, but both each came out with different results, and then very serendipitously met each other. So that's one of the starts for sure.
Yeah,
I think with COVID, it for me, because I'm such an extrovert, I go out, I go dancing, I listen to music, and that was like my outlet to just meet people and just go out and about, you know? And then when COVID hit, I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to talk to people? This is so not what just being confined in one place. It gets depressing.
Oh yeah. It was an adjustment for sure.
So that's when I started doing the mask thing, and it evolved around there. And I was doing curbside pickups in front of my house.
Oh, that's right.
I was feeding people soju shots on Friday.
I love it.
It's interesting to also talk to those people, because especially for people that live by themselves, they didn't really have an outlet as well. So feeding them, I mean, I was taking shots too, but like, drinking and just building relationships with those people, hearing them vent about, their stuff. I'm like, oh, I also became a little bit of a therapist at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
And so then that's when like empathy came into play with me.
Just connecting with the community in a different way, but still like needing that connection.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that a lot. It was very energy healing for myself.
Right.
And now, I have so much fabrics at home. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do with these things? And then I started just sewing other stuff, and now here I am. Like, the energy is so much more different than just working a regular
right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Corporate environment. And I feed off of like you guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's good, positive energy, and like just not being criticized so much in a working environment.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
There is definitely something to be said for surrounding yourself with other creatives that know what it's like to put yourself out there and like fail, or they know what it's like to be like, oh man, I'm so scared to do this. I'm probably going to be embarrassing, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
If you have other people that can relate to that and like encourage you, or like you said, just empathize with you about that, it is like a life force. Definitely helps you recharge the batteries and keep the momentum going. And just even have like the courage to keep trying new things. When I was in COVID, I was definitely trying to get back to painting and drawing for my own sanity. And I just started posting it on Instagram. And I think so many people were back to their houses and realizing that maybe they didn't have art on their walls, or they had artwork that they didn't like anymore. So they were wanting something new. And it started by just direct messages of a couple friends asking me like, hey, the painting you posted, like, are you selling it? Can I have it? Can I pay you for it? And so I kept on doing that. And interacting with people through stories. Like Instagram was a huge lifeline to a bunch of my friends that were all quarantining, everyone was in lockdown, but just still talking about art. And I started taking custom commissions during COVID. And that was my favorite part, because it was someone like, oh, I love irises because they remind me of my grandmother, but my favorite color is this. Like, can you combine them? And that was the most addicting part about it, because I couldn't get in my own head about what I was drawing. You have this really nice guideline. And the more personal it was to the person, the more I was like excited to do it and like create something for them. So that's how my business started during COVID for sure. And then it was like, I don't really want to stop. I'll just keep doing this and see, like, as long as people keep on asking for it, I'm going to keep doing it.
I think it's like the support, like the community and like just the people supporting you. Like, you should continue. It's very rewarding. I guess. And
so much.
Like, it's fun too, because along that journey, like just meeting people during COVID was like my thing. I'm like, dude, these people are so dope. You know, like everybody has a talent or like a gift. And you could feel it from the energy that you get from it.
There was a lot of camaraderie during that time that I feel like was very special that people tapped into. And like you said, people that maybe you might not have had a conversation with before, you're now having a conversation with, and opening your world a little bit, because we're not so bogged down by our normal routines and our normal jobs, because they all got interrupted. So for me, in that way, COVID was positive.
I know. It's so weird to say anything. I feel terrible whenever I say something similar. It's like, if it wasn't for COVID, I'd do this. But then it's
COVID
like, oh,
is so good for me. Like, that's not.
I mean, it might have been bad, not enjoyable for some people, but honestly, like, where are we now? You know, we're growing. We're constantly like developing ourselves, becoming better at it, and just learning off of each other. You know.
Totally agree. I guess for the two of you, like, when did you start kind of starting your journey with like painting or in general like creating artwork, and then for you like the crafts part of it, like how early on did you start like doing that? Was it like when you were like little or as a teenager? Like when did you kind of remember starting to do your creative?
Like looking back. Well, so well, I think back of it now when you gave those 3 questions. Like I had to like think about like what got me into sewing. You know, like what got me into drawing. Like I draw, like, but I don't draw like as much as I used to. But it was like when I was a child, I was very into like Teen Beat and like looking at those like singing magazines and fashion and and back then, like I think I was like in 3rd or 4th grade, and our teacher wanted us to do a book about I don't know, but I did a fashion booklet. I don't even know where that is anymore.
I would love to see that. That'd be so cool.
All I remember was drawing like stick figures and like doing dresses and pants and coloring it like colorful, like different random colors. I should look for that.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
It's probably like thrown away somewhere. I used to I was collecting those Teen Beat magazines or like teenager magazines, and then it grew to like Vogue. And back then, like, growing up as Filipino, like, you know, the whole thing about, like, you have to go into medical field because it's the place to get money. Mm-hmm. I always, like, was rebellious against that stuff. Yeah. Because I was always, like, the artsy kind, you know, creative element. Yeah. And then I was going to De Anza.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I went to De Anza, and I was going into marketing, and you know, how do you have like to take like a questionnaire? Yeah. You had this questionnaire to make sure that that's what you wanted to do. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Yeah. You know, just trying to figure that out. And then like my friend was going to Academy of Art, and I was like, well, Academy University now. And I'll go with you to check it out, you know? And then, you know, they took you on a tour. They took you to all the different like departments, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should do advertising. Yeah, because it's like more of like the creative aspect, and maybe I could get into like fashion, like in that kind of element, do like Illustrator and whatnot. But then I took a year of it, and I was like, nah, I don't want that.
Yeah. It wasn't the right fit at that point.
Yeah, and then, you know, I took like a intro to fashion degree class, and I'm like, oh, I like this more. And then it came full circle, and I'm like, oh, this is dope. So I just continued, you know, doing fashion, merchandising, like, although I like design, but I was like, there's so many different aspects of that. Yeah. Kind of like art, or like, you know, video. I don't know. Yeah, I ended up doing fashion merchandising, and I sewed on the side. Oh, okay. So that's how it slowly started growing. Right.
That makes sense. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Long story.
No.
It wasn't. It was the perfect.
Like I now have like a perfect idea of like how that got started. So
I know.
That was amazing.
It's just a journey, you know.
Absolutely.
Then, just being in an art school, like, it opened a lot of doors, like, because that culture is so different. Yeah. Like, but then I liked music too, and I liked dancing. Yeah. So just how that whole thing like evolved, it's like, it's wild. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Definitely a journey.
Yeah.
In a very, I mean, not exactly similar, but slightly similar fashion. I was definitely an artsy kid, hardcore artsy, obsessed with drawing and coloring. I could spend hours just like at a table with ink pens and crayons spread out all over the table. Yeah. But my family kind of hinted that it wouldn't make a lot of money. Yeah. So once it got to college, I ended up going into art education, and I finished at Columbia College in Missouri. With an art education degree, but still always was doing, like, I waited tables through college, but I was always doing side art gigs. Yeah. So I would make like picture props for kids' birthday parties, and I would anything like wedding signage. If someone wanted t-shirts made for like bachelorette parties, I was your gal.
Oh, nice.
Always doing it, never stopped. And I think COVID was just the nice little excuse that I needed to super focus in on it. Yeah. But yeah.
It made you, like, being stuck at home made you do more stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, it really was almost kind of returning to some of those childhood hobbies of just like, let me lock myself in my room with all of my art supplies and just see what I can draw. Maybe I'll create a story. Maybe I'll just draw what I was doing that day. Maybe for me, it was really heavily nature-based. That was, I think, what was making me feel like calm during COVID. And growing up in my house, I always had these framed pictures. They were my dad's of, there's this great conservation artist in Missouri, Charles W. Schwartz, and we had a ton of his drawings framed around our house. His son was actually like my dad's childhood best friend.
Oh, wow.
So my dad was super close to them and they were very near and dear. So they were like, I mean, every room we had one, and they were just these black and white, very detailed, realistic drawings of different animals that were native to Missouri. And so I think maybe it was like subconsciously pulling that for my own comfort, but I started drawing plants that I had in my garden because to keep ourselves busy and not going crazy. We were also doing a ton of gardening at that point. And then once I started letting people into it and taking commissions and then hearing what nature spoke to them or what nature was meaningful to them, it really felt like I tapped into a world that I didn't know I needed. So that has been the primary focus since. It was kind of like, I'm just going to keep drawing this until I don't want to anymore or until I run out of ideas, and it just hasn't happened yet. So I'm like, we're still on the ride. We're on the journey.
When we were talking before we started recording, I know we had mentioned like, how do we pick these things up? Is it just like through learning? Is it through YouTube and stuff like that? For you, when you were kind of doing those one-offs, like the shirts for like bachelor parties and stuff like that, was that very similar that you just kind of self-taught?
I was super learning on the go.
Oh, okay.
Super learning on the go. And I would always, like, it was always close friends or family members. And so I would do it on the cheap. And that was, they always had so much faith that whatever I was executing, I could make it happen. And those people believing in you really does like light a fire under you to like not let them down and definitely be like, well, how hard could it be? Like, let's figure it out. So those trial and errors, I feel like without me realizing it, were stepping stones to learning how to run a business.
Very true. And you led me to the next question perfectly at that.
Oh, cool.
That was like the perfect transition.
You're welcome.
So like in the same spirit, I think that's the whole thing that we wanted to do with the podcast of like highlighting or featuring like local artists. And a lot of that comes through like the vending world that we're all a part of now. From your experience, I guess the two of you, like, how did that kind of start? Like, how did you learn? How did you go about applying? Like, because this season we're trying to get different perspectives on people who are doing like vending at like various events like that. So do you remember like how you got started into like
nerve-wracking? It was nerve-wracking.
It's intimidating for sure, especially because it's so easy on Instagram to stumble across like the most beautiful, immaculate market setups. And it does almost make you think like, well, why should I even bother? Like, where do I even start? But I will say, you'll never be worse than my first time as a vendor.
Oh, no.
What's your experience?
My first time as a vendor, I completely misunderstood what it was for. It was actually at the Collab Factory in Newark when they were doing shows.
That's how we met?
Yeah, that's how you and Lily met. It was an art market, and the guy that coordinated the whole thing, Chris, reached out to me in an Instagram message and said like, hey, I found your Instagram and like, do you want to be a part of this art market? And I immediately was like, yes, please. I was just over the moon that someone even asked me. But I didn't have a table. I did not have a chair. I didn't have a tablecloth. I didn't have a sign. I showed up with 3 paintings, just like 3 canvases and a little tote. And he helped me hang them on the wall. And I just like stood there with a business card all night and kind of talked to people about it. And everyone else had tables and business cards and stickers and greeting cards and so many products. And that was kind of when I realized like, oh, I need to like reevaluate a little bit and come back and do this better. But it was just, it ripped off the Band-Aid, so to speak. Like, and I think that's important to do. Like, don't worry about being cringy. Don't worry about being perfect your first time. You're not going to be embarrassing, because one thing that really helped me was realizing a lot of the artists or vendors around me were just as nervous as I was. They're all out there literally putting themselves out there on a table for everyone to come and criticize if they want to, but most people are generally nice, luckily. So that makes you realize like, okay, these people aren't going to criticize me because at least I'm trying.
Right.
Like your fellow vendors are going to recognize that you showed up.
Yeah.
It's important just to show up.
Yeah. I think you summed it up perfectly, because with that, I've noticed I've had conversations too with other people in different like professions and everything like that. So when you compare the art scene, like how you just said, versus like the sports environment or anything in sports, it's just very competitive, because you have to be, because you're trying to like win for either yourself or for your team, or et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. But at least in my experience in the art field, like it's exactly what you described, is that it feels like a legit community. So at that point, like it's better to just help each other, because you'll all prosper at that point, versus like different communities.
Especially if you're at the same event, like hey, you promoting it and me promoting it is going to benefit both of us. So let's put our heads together and collaborate or work together, or like promote this. So that's one take on the vending world for sure. That's my horrible start to the vending world.
Was that also your first time vending, or did you vend before?
Oh, so I had vended. My first vending experience was Ube Festival, and this was like in the midst of COVID. I think it was like the second year of COVID. And I randomly I was like out in Tracy at a brewery, and I was with my friends, and this girl who does baked goods was throwing her first Ube Festival. And she was part of the city or something. And so like, she's like, oh, I need vendors for my first Ube Festival. So it was like her first one. And I was like, oh, I sew. But at that moment in time, I was like just doing the mask thing.
Yeah.
And I met her like maybe 3 or 4 months prior to her throwing the event.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, this is my opportunity. The vendor fee was $50 and at that time, and it's her first one, and there's going to be a lot of food vendors, and a lot of my friends are going, So I was like, oh my God, what am I going to sew? Yeah. my friends were like, you should do it. And then I'm very spontaneous, which is kind of bad. But,
not always.
Not in this scenario. It seems like,
they're like, just do it. And I'm like, this is scary. Like, I don't know what to expect, and I'm a sewer. It takes a lot of time, a lot of patience, especially. So it's like you have to, I normally have to plan what I'm sewing or do like steps. I can't do like one pouch in one day because I'll get bored too fast. Right? Like just doing something in the same routine over and over gets tiring. After a while.
For sure.
And so I was like, okay, I know what I want to do or want to sew. It's just a matter of me executing and trial and error.
Yeah.
And so when it came up to the day of the vendor thing, Ube Festival, I like got my cart. I was already nervous because I was like, I only sewed like a couple of pouches, a tote bag, and then some other reusable tote, because I was like, oh, let me just play around because I'm not sure what people want to buy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right?
That's a hard part about vending, is figuring out what's going to sell and what isn't. Can be very trial and error.
Yeah. Super trial and error. I just put myself out there. Right. Yeah. And I was like, I was so nervous that day because it was like raining at the same time.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. And it was like outdoors and like...
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did you have a tent or anything?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
But
nice.
I got my car hit that day.
Stop.
She's trying to top your story. No.
It's making me feel better. This is a prime example of why it's important to talk to other creatives.
And I had to like lug a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Keeping it PG.
Yeah. No, it's fine. Yeah.
I had to lug a bunch of stuff, and I was so not even prepared. I was like, oh my God, what the hell am I doing? I didn't have like no hand. I knew that my stuff didn't like look appealing, but I had I'm very hard on myself too at the same time.
Yeah.
And so when my car got hit, I was like, oh my God, where can I focus my energy on?
Yeah.
Because my anxiety was high.
Right.
And then my car got hit, and I was like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Were you like, is the universe telling me not to vent? Like, what's going on right now?
Should I just go home and cry?
Yeah.
Because
I'm so glad you didn't throw in the towel.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you were just like, you know what? We're going to keep at it.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, fuck it. Let's go. You know, and it's just the first learning experience, you know, and I'm like, at least I didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's trial and error.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'll just keep going.
Yeah.
I've just been rolling with it ever since.
Nice.
Love it.
Yeah. I think both of your stories kind of resonate with me because when we started venting back in 2015, very same things of just like, what do we even put out there? Like, I know we like making art, but we don't know exactly what to sell, what people prefer. And just also talking to other guests on the podcast, they also say like, it really depends on the event and also the location too. Because so many different locations like cater more to one thing or a different craft.
Yeah.
So you don't know that the first time you're doing a show or even in your first couple of shows. You do have to like bounce around different areas to understand that part of it.
Yeah.
I
would say take every failure like a grain of salt. Like definitely learn from it, but try to roll with the punches as much as possible because like there is something to be said for everyone always puts their best front on Instagram. You know what I mean? But behind that are a million messed up projects like, you know, of applications that got denied. And it's Instagram does a good job of making it easy, but everyone
or Canva.
But everyone's messing up a lot more than you can see, you think, because you can't get to a perfected, good visual product without messing up a million times. Like that's not just part of it. I feel like that's so necessary. And anyone says like, I made it perfect on the first try, and it's just been a magic carpet ride for me ever since. Like they are fibbing. Like I don't know if that's even possible.
Yeah.
Do you like what you see? Many of the studio items are made from local artists. Learn more about each artist in the episode description. Thanks again, and let's jump back into the episode.
How did that get started? Like the collab project that the two of you worked on. Like it's amazing. Like I just seeing it at the event itself. They look beautiful.
Oh,
but like I think that's the thing that I admire. That I think we talked about also off camera is that we don't see that as much in the pop-up scene of just like two separate vendors collaborating on things. So I definitely want to hear how that story kind of started.
Yeah, I would say Lily was definitely the mastermind. I cannot take credit for that genius idea.
Part of that, girl. But like, so when me and her first met at Collab Factory, I was like, oh, I like her stuff. Like, it's the stuff that healed a part of my soul, like the nature, the sea, like the stuff you draw, you know, your paint. And so like I was like, she ended up drawing my dog.
I did a commission of Lily's 4 Frenchies. That was
so that's right. Yeah.
So then I was like, dude, I want to do something with Genevieve because I was like, I see something with this girl. This girl, I love her and I appreciate your art. Yeah. And so like, you know, just going to all these like pop-ups, I'm like, dude, I always put like my business cards or like my thank you cards or stickers like on the table, or when I'm doing transactions, like it's always on the table, like all my stuff, sometimes even my notepad and my telephone. And so I was like looking at aprons for a while. I was like browsing, you know, trying to find inspiration, but I was like, these are really boring and basic because sometimes we wear dresses, right? So there's no pockets. Or tops. And I was like, oh, you know, it'd be cool we do a maker's apron, you know?
To have all your stuff while you're vending.
And it's helpful.
Absolutely.
Like, and then I was like, Genevieve's stuff is dope. So then, and then I was like, and I like her stuff. And I was like, And then I saw your t-shirts.
Yeah, I started getting into printing on fabric.
Yeah, when I saw her doing printing, I was like, oh, she would be dope for a collab.
Yeah.
So then just seeing her grow, you know, like, look how you evolved within those times that I've known you, met you.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I was like, oh, since she's printing now, like, we should put prints on these aprons.
Yeah, you reached out, and it was before you talked to me about the design, but it was before you had one sewn up. And you were just like, hey, if I make aprons, will you come up with some designs and to like tie them together and make a line with me? And I was like, sign me up. Like, yeah, absolutely. Because of every market that we had done together before, like I love Lily's energy. I love like extrovert to extrovert. I was just like, this girl gets me hyped at functions when you're nervous and in your head. Yeah. You definitely need that friend that's just like, we're going to have a great day. Yeah. And that's Lily for sure. And I really had liked her stuff, her totes, like the amount of pockets in them. The first time I met you, I was like obsessed, because women never get enough pockets, and that really resonated with me. And then, I stopped carrying like what I was using for a wallet, and I just started using your pouches. And they're so handy. So I liked how her brain worked. I liked the design with the function. Yeah. She never was about aesthetic over function. So I had like so much respect for her as a maker. Yeah. And then her coming to me and asking me to put my stuff on her work was just like, wow, I got to make it awesome. Like, let's make something super cool. So that's how the communication started. Yeah. And then she'd get fabrics and take pictures and send them to me. Oh, that's awesome. And we'd like layer different fabrics and be like, okay, can you actually like show me this fabric again?
All through text.
We really did.
Yeah. But it was a cool like collaboration. And then your art show,
the summer stack.
Yeah.
That was when it debuted.
I was like, dude, we should drop it then.
Yeah, that was perfect. That was awesome. Really
formulated.
Yeah, just like everything coming together. Yeah. So that was cool. And Lily was always so open to my suggestions, and I was open to her suggestions. I think that's important. Like, definitely be open to other people's creative processes. If you're stuck in one thing and you really like what you're doing and you don't want anyone to touch it, collaborating might not be for you yet. But if you are someone who likes to change up your routine and you don't want to get bored, I think collaboration is just someone you respect and think is really cool. You're into their stuff. I mean, Lily really started that. And I loved the fabrics that she picked out for our aprons, the cream denim. You showed me that. I was so excited. And most people think it's canvas. It's not canvas. It's like a real nice, sturdy denim. And something about when you started sending me the pictures and we're talking about doing the black stitching with it, I was like, oh, I gotta do some really cool, like bold, graphic, dark black prints on it to like make that stitching pop. And it was just fabulous.
I was like, Genevieve, here's your canvas.
Yeah, exactly.
It was so great. Yeah, she let me have a ton of artistic freedom with it, but I still wanted it to like make sense with what she was putting together. Because the small pockets on the aprons will have different like featured prints.
Oh, okay.
And so I wanted it to complement those. And like you said, like storytell. Storytelling with the aprons was really important. And then we debuted it at Summer Stack, and the response was like, we were both on like dopamine highs the whole day. We were next to each other, like, someone came and looked at the aprons and like high-fiving each other.
And then, she was storytelling. It's all about the storytelling.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people, we met a lot of people that day that we got compliments of.
Absolutely. And they just wanted to talk about it, which I was like, you hope that people are going to be into it, but that was such a very like accepting and intrigued response that I'm super grateful for. People were fantastic today. So if you've bought one of our aprons, we love you.
Yeah, exactly. and I think that was like the perfect time to do it too, because since we had so many other creatives there, like they could relate to having or needing something like that. So it was like the perfect time to do it.
It was super rewarding to make something that was kind of like with creatives in mind and feel like there was a need for that, because the response to it was so positive. It was like, okay, like you were right. Like this is something that is needed or appreciated in the scene.
Yeah. I think the other thing too, when I was just saying that I don't see that enough with like separate vendors collaborating on things, I think it should be more, but to your point too, it's only like if you're open to collaborating, like if you're totally into your thing, that's fine. But I think it's similar to like when musicians do like collaborations on like songs, like when they do a verse or whatever on like someone else's album and stuff like that. It helps because it exposes a different audience to another artist that you may not have heard of or didn't know.
Definitely.
So I think it's the same thing. Like if people were really enjoying your artwork, but then noticed it with like Lily's sewing and fabrics, and then vice versa. Like if now people are seeing Genevieve's designs on your work, then they're like, oh, like, is there more of this, etc. So it's the perfect like collaboration because you get to expose your audiences to your to your unique artwork at that point.
Yeah, it's just like we were talking about with the markets. Like if you promote it and I promote it, we're gonna reach more people. Like we'll both benefit. And this collaboration felt so beneficial because even once, like Lily let me see all the fabrics and like give my opinions, and then it was the same thing once it was my time to work on the imagery of like okay, like spitballing like these ideas of imagery, and she'd be like, what if we did like this instead? Have you ever drawn something like this?
Yeah,
and then I'd be
like, what else can I push the book?
But I think it was important. It's so important to like push each other outside of your regular boundaries, because there were some things that weren't in the original plan that ended up happening where I was like, man, this feels like it was the original plan all along. And there were other things that like, I don't know, that you think are going to look great, that maybe you change your mind halfway through, and that's okay. Like,
because it's all a learning process too. It was our first batch.
Yes.
There'll be more batches.
Yeah. Now I can't wait, especially after the debut one. Like now I can't even imagine like what you have in store for the future. So
for sure. I'm excited for us.
You
know? Because it partnering up with another artist is always beneficial for me too, because I'm not saying that I just sew, but it helps me learn too. Yeah. You know, like I said, I don't like to do stuff repetitively. Or the routine. Yeah. So doing these maker's aprons and doing it with Genevieve was a learning process. It was an awesome learning experience with her, you know, like she's awesome. I love her.
Love you back. Well, and it helps when you're both invested in it with like a mutual outcome. It was never, you know, everyone has had that experience of being part of a group project where you do the majority of the work.
No, this one just from like a outsider point of view definitely felt like a legit collaboration. Like you can see the amount of effort and passion on both sides. So, but like it's exactly how you just said. I remember being a part of a bunch of projects either in high school or whatever, where it's like you can clearly tell like who was doing more. But where
it's like, oh great, I'm gonna get a worse grade. And it wasn't like that at all. It honestly felt like a party a little bit. Sometimes we're having a little bit too much fun. But I think that it was so needed to collaborate, and if anything, just show people that like it can be done. It's not like a terrible time, because a lot of people probably mentally associate collaborations with like horrible group projects. But when you're with another creative that is like, again, willing to adapt and like take feedback, it can be super beneficial for you as an artist.
Totally agree. Yeah, I've noticed that too. And at the meetups and also at the pop-up events, like how you were saying earlier that I kind of prefer those like at the scope that you're doing, because you can actually have those one-on-one conversations with people versus like these super large ones that, trust me, I've done as a vendor, and it's like it's not great on both sides of the table, like as a vendor and as an attendee, because it just feels like you're being so rushed with everything versus like the more smaller intimate ones that you can actually get to know the person, have a good conversation with them. And
that's what I've been learning. Like asking people's input is very important to me. So just like the people's vending there, they're like, I like how it's more of an intimate level and how I could actually have conversations with the repeat with the people that constantly buy from me.
And
that was like one thing. Instead of thinking of, I'm also thinking in back of my head, I want these people to also make money, you know? But some of them aren't even about that. And plus it's a Sunday.
Yeah.
And there's a full bar.
Doesn't hurt.
But still at the same time, it's like, it's you know, learning, right? Like, I'm just taking it at the greatest level and just learning, you know, as I go and learning from different people.
Definitely.
Like, I even have this girl vending, well, she's my friend's daughter, but she is only in high school that's going to be
Oh, I love that.
So it will be interesting to see what she brings. You know? Because I want to see what the youth does. Like, they're the future. And this is why I want to build the community. Like, I want to welcome these young kids that are dreamers.
I love that. Well, because think about it. If we're grown adults and we are already such nervous wrecks, like, think about how these younger people are feeling, like showing up to an event with grown adults and like putting themselves out there, and especially not being as experienced or older. Like, that's incredible, because I feel like we are definitely very adamant about welcoming more people into the art world, and our younger generations need to be considered in that for sure.
For sure, because they're the future. Like, I'm like, oh, so what do you do? She's like, oh, I do like wellness shirts.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so she does dance. So she's like in sophomore. And I was like, oh, let me see. So she showed me a little bit. I was like, well, why don't you vend her? So
that's awesome.
Exciting.
Yeah, she does screen printing. I was like,
oh, wow. See, that's way more advanced than what I was doing at that age. So.
Like, okay, who's the graphic designer? And she's like, me and my friend. And I'm like, okay, I want to see what you got.
Yes.
Here.
Sometimes the best artwork comes out of like garage studio stuff, you know? Like, I love that. I love it.
It's cool. Like, it's cool. I think it's inspirational for us to learn from these young kids now, because I'm like, oh, my back pain.
Yeah. they'll do the heavy lifting. Awesome. So just to kind of, I guess, wind down, because I know we're at our time slowly. This has been like a harder question to ask folks, like, as I've noticed throughout the last few interviews. So I wouldn't say what has been your favorite project, but at least like what has been a project that you're, I guess, most proud of? Because I know we have so many favorites, but from your recent projects, like what has stood out to you is like one of your projects that you really enjoyed working on? It could be either be, in your case, collaborative, or it could be individually.
It's up there. I'm in my brain trying to think.
Collaborating with her has been like inspirational, because that, I think, you know, her being so open and like us partnering up together with it, bouncing back ideas is what I enjoyed, because sometimes I'm like in my bubble. I don't want to get stuck, because I do get stuck. I get bored. And so like partnering up with Genevieve with this collaboration, it was awesome, because I miss partnering up, like in a working environment. I was always working with my internal team, but to outside the box, and you're a small business artist, you know, like it's different. I'm not controlled.
Yes.
Right?
And being a small business artist can definitely be lonely. No one really warns you about that aspect of it, but whether you mean for it to be or not, it can be pretty isolating, even when you love what you do. And I know that you're very used to working with people, and I was the same way. Every job I had ever had was working like very intertwined with other people. So the collaboration, I think, was like that great, just like something that we didn't know we needed. I feel like you knew that we needed it, though. So I can't say that. I don't want to speak for you, but for me, I didn't know that I needed it. So the collaboration was definitely, it was how fun it was made it one of my favorites for sure.
I think it was like, for me, I was like, I definitely knew that I wanted a collaboration. Because it was something that I like doing, just like even on a regular basis, you know, not just outside my side hustle, but like I was like, I see Genevieve and I doing something. And I knew that for a while. It was just a matter of me like, okay, what can I do? And so when I saw her doing, you know, the t-shirts, with the trees, I was like, I know I'm going to reach out to this girl. I can see my partnership with her, you know?
Yeah.
This summer I got back into lino cutting, and I really loved printmaking during college. I just love lines. I feel weird when someone asks me like, so what kind of artist would you consider yourself? I'm like, I don't know if I can just say painter, but I'm not just a printer, and I'm not like just an illustrator. But I absolutely love line work. I think my work is pretty obvious about that. So getting back into lino cutting and working with the style that I'm doing now, really was re-exploring an old love in a new way, pretty much, and thinking about not putting it on a canvas, but putting it on a functional fabric that's going to be worn. Changed the game and was super, super fun. And now I don't know if I can stop.
Yeah. Who knows what we could do?
Exactly.
In my head.
Yeah, you planted the seed.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's always those things of trying out new things. I'm the same way too, that if I work on one thing for too long, then I either get bored of it or like my mind instantly wants to work on something else too.
Yeah, like ADHD.
Yeah. I think that's probably what it is. But yeah, like for example, like when I'm doing like the podcast, I have to do the editing portion, then I have to do the visual portion. So I like being able to jump back and forth between those so I don't get bored. But also if all of a sudden I get an itch to do this, then I'll do that. So I think our minds are like that as creatives, that we just like multitasking, but also to make sure we get the job done at the same time.
Yeah.
That's a delicate balance. Definitely like just make sure you get it done.
Yeah.
That's a learning curve all of its own, like being a small business artist.
Like you have your steps, right? Like, and then you have your calendar in your head.
Yeah.
You know, like I gotta do it on this date, but then you have to backtrack on all those steps. Like it's crazy and stressful at the same time.
Yeah, totally agree.
Such a fun little puzzle to solve. Right? Creative problem solving.
But then it's fun. It's not like a regular.
Yeah.
You know?
Once you're done with it and you're like, holy crap, I pulled that off. It's a really cool feeling. You're almost like surprising yourself as you go. So yeah.
No, I couldn't have said it any better. And I think going back to your point just before we wrap things up, no one really tells you that whole thing about being a small business, that you're just literally doing everything by yourself.
Yes.
And I think that's one piece of advice I would definitely give like folks who are trying to either do anything in the creative field or just start a small business, that just be prepared mentally, I guess both physically and mentally, to like tackle this until you can either plan how to automate things or how to like get help. Because in the beginning, it's literally you doing everything.
Yeah, you're a one-man band or a one-woman band. So you got to make it happen. That was definitely something that I struggled with as a small business, was getting so excited about opportunities and saying yes to almost too many of them. Because then it's like, okay, I'm the one-woman army that's now got to deliver all of those things. And changing up different projects can be really fun. But also thinking about, like, me as a small business artist, I'm working out of my home. So I have a very limited amount of space. So if I'm screen printing and doing a big canvas painting, like, where's all of that going to fit? And, like, I would say being an art teacher taught me a little bit about like how to break down supplies for different projects in one day. So I use a little bit of that in my business, because cleanup is a real thing. Like, that kind of sucks when you've been working all day and you're tired and now you're like, okay, and now I have to put away and clean up everything. And if you're cleaning all that up and then starting on a new project, like, whew, you can dig yourself in a little hole. So that's something to watch out for sure.
Yeah, totally. Stuff everywhere.
Learn to live in the chaos.
Like I have like my work stuff, in one corner, and then I have my fabrics all over the place. All over the place. It's like a mosh pit.
Yeah.
It's a little bit gross. It's crazier in the holidays because
as soon as you said it,
sorry,
like, oh my
my head. But yeah, it's gonna be hectic.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. There is nothing like holiday art time.
And then everybody's like, oh, so we're gonna do a gathering? No, I don't think I could clean at that time.
Yeah. Even this, like, this is transformed. This was originally just supposed to just be the podcast studio, but now it became like my work studio for like my regular job.
Oh, wow.
So it's like one of those things like, as much as I try to keep things organized, it's the same thing. It's just going to get chaotic after a while. And you just got to embrace it. So.
Yeah.
Embrace it.
Yeah.
Embrace the
That's
chaos.
a good word.
Yeah.
That's a good
embrace. Roll with the punches.
6 seconds.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we'll embrace each other. And thank you so much for joining us. Did you guys have any shout outs or want to say hi to anybody before we head out?
Yeah. Hi, family. Hi, friends.
Hello.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Like this, like I feel this is probably we can probably do a follow-up conversation at a future time because I know there's going to be even more stories, more experiences that we can definitely like chat about in the future. So hopefully we can bring you back on and just like continue the conversation once we go through even more experiences.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Because just a year, it's kind of crazy how much things can change.
And how we met each other.
Yeah.
We're gonna see each other around for sure.
It's so amazing to see that. Just
serendipity kind of.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, I want to give a toast to us. And thank you so much. Cheers. And thank you so much for tuning in. And we will see you next time. Take care.
Thanks again for listening. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and other social platforms to catch new episodes and updates. Want to learn more about the items and music featured in this episode? Links available in the episode description. Thanks again for listening, and take care.